Nvidia shares, they are surging more than 15% heading into the close here. Tech giants' earnings beat defied fears that AI enthusiasm has peaked, fueling a wider rally across other names in the AI trade. With more, we're joined now by Yahoo Finance's Josh Schafer. Joshua.
Yeah, Josh. So Nvidia beats earnings, and then a bunch of companies not named Nvidia also sort of benefit from that, right? And when you take a look broadly across the AI trade that we sort of track here pretty frequently, you're seeing a lot of names up. Some companies we have been watching recently, Nvidia was revealed they made investments in SoundHound and ARM. Both of those stocks are up today. You see AMD, a fellow chip maker, up over 11% today. And then I want to hone in on that last one a little bit because this has been a crazy momentum trade in Supermicro Computer. We have been tracking that over the past week or so, guys. The shares really took off over AI enthusiasm. You can see today up 32%, up over 230% on the year. And to me, one of the biggest questions coming into Nvidia earnings was just simply, have we hit peak AI enthusiasm? I think it's not necessarily surprising to a lot of people that have followed Nvidia earnings over the last couple of quarters that they beat the street's estimates. They came out with great numbers. They didn't really say anything that shocking, so it's been interesting to just track the investor enthusiasm, but not only in the AI trade, guys, but when you broaden out in sort of what it means for Julian Emanuel over at Evercore called it the FOMO rally.
Yeah.
And FOMO doesn't necessarily just mean AI stocks either, which I think is an important thing to highlight. We talked about the broader averages that are hitting record highs right now, and even some stocks like a JP Morgan, Waste Management hitting record highs today. I wouldn't really call JP Morgan an AI play, right? But investors,
Waste management for that matter,
right?
yeah.
But investors getting excited to essentially get in the market seems to be a little bit of the theme today as well.
It was really interesting when those Nvidia numbers came out last night. Initially, the stock did pull back a little bit, and I don't think either Josh or I was surprised, right? Because there was such enthusiasm. I'm more surprised to see this rally continuing and everything else going along with it. And it is interesting that the FOMO trade idea is coming up again. We've seen glimmers of it in recent weeks, right? With something like a Supermicro and everybody sort of piling into that. But it feels a little bit like the go-go days of early, even 2021, right? When people were stuck at home, they had stimulus checks, and they were looking to get into the market. There is a little bit of that feeling again.
There definitely is, and especially, Julie, when you think about the other stocks, like I mentioned, we talk about Supermicro. Nvidia is the company that reported earnings. And Nvidia's stock is up about 15%, which is a sizable move in a large company. But Supermicro stock is up double that. It's up 30%. It's just interesting to see sort of where investors are kind of placing their bets at this point in maybe areas where the stock hasn't rallied as much. So Nvidia is saying the AI story is good to go. Where else can I maybe benefit from that AI trade in other areas, because maybe Nvidia isn't necessarily the play because the stock's gone up so much. I was just trying to rationalize essentially where investors are placing the bets.
Well, I think there's also probably some options supercharging that is going on with all of this, right? And that is also playing a factor in the moves that we're seeing.
And the other thing, guys, too, that I think is interesting to think about here that you guys talk about a lot is the other news that we're just kind of overlooking over the past week and a half, right? We have this sort of, it feels like Julie said, the go-go days of maybe 2021 or something, and we're not talking about the Fed narrative that people now think that the rate cuts are coming in June. A week ago, that mattered a lot.
Who cares?
The inflation report mattered a lot a week ago.
What about,
right?
let me ask you this, if you were thinking about next catalyst for the market, so Nvidia now, rear view mirror, so talking that, so would the next catalyst, what's the next, next event you would have on your calendar, PCE?
It's probably the PCE report coming next week, right? And we're gonna probably get back to the market being focused a little bit on the inflation story and what that overall means for the Fed. And all of these stocks that are rallying today, when you sit back and think about what does it matter if interest rates are higher for longer for that specific company or that specific sector. Right now, I think there's a lot of euphoria, and it's great, and it's a one-day thing. But I think when you zoom out, yes, Josh, at some point, the conversation probably does go back a little bit to the macro.
Well, and just one final point to make on the Fed, right? The calculation was always, if the Fed's going to be cutting, why is it going to be cutting, right? Is it going to be cutting because things are back to normal and the economy is going well, or is it going to be cutting because the economy is taking a turn for the worse? It seems to be the first one of those, and that's why they're getting pushed back, and that's why perhaps the market seems okay with it.
If the economy is doing well, that's a good backdrop for equities, right?
It feels that way. All right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.